we eat from 1,000 different hungers, and it's usually not food.
Jane McGuinness is a registered clinical counselor and a mother of 3 fearless young Australians. A recovering emotional eater, her own therapy consists of escaping to the mountains whenever possible to hike or bike with her trademark enthusiasm for life. She advocates acceptance, gratitude, and kindness above all else, and maintains that a day without laughter is a day wasted, and joins me today on Uncorking Your Story to uncork her life and debut memoir, Always Hungry, How I Lost the Weight and Found Myself. Welcome to Uncorking Your Story, Jane. I'm excited to have you here as I cut you off mid-sentence, and I'm curious, I promise not to do that again. Just tell me, where does your story as an author begin?
Sure. Well, I think in hindsight, I'd always enjoyed writing, and, at university, the essays in the exams were always the easy part. I could always just it just came naturally, and it occurred to me in 2023, I was traveling and I was ready for a career change, and it just occurred to me, I have a story to write. My friends, people would always joke, my girlfriends would joke, they live vicariously through me, and people would comment on the changes they'd seen and what I'd done with my life, particularly in the last decade. And I realized I need to share this. And then I realized for very important reasons I needed to share this because of my lived experience. And so it really just poured out of me. I couldn't stop when I decided I too tend to jump in the pool with both feet. I don't get in slowly. So I decided to make a career change and go all in, and just wrote the draft in 3 months, and then thought, right, I need a publisher. So I sort of, took the bull by the horns. I don't know if that's the Aussie in me or it's just me, a bit of both maybe.
What was your career before you made this change?
Sure. So I was a registered clinical counsellor, so a therapist, with a comfortable couch. And I went back to school after my divorce. So for a long time, I was a stay-at-home mother. And prior to that, I was actually an elementary teacher. So I've worn a few different hats. My undergrad was initially geography. I was one of those people that had no idea what I wanted to do. And looking back, the common thread had been writing. I'd always loved it. And I think all roads lead to Rome. I know I was meant to get here and have these lived experiences so that I could write and share, and hopefully make a few people laugh. So it's all I'm where I'm meant to be now. I'm quite sure of that.
Well, I have to say it is a very clear trajectory. I mean, geography to elementary school teacher to registered counselor to author. I mean, it's perfectly clear to me how you wound up here.
It's much like life, isn't it? It's just messy. That's yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about the book. I mean, you mentioned being a recovering emotional eater. I know there's a lot of stuff that went into this book, and I'm curious. I'm curious just to know a little bit more about it. So, what can you share?
Sure, absolutely. Well, the thing is, because I lost a lot of the weight before I moved to Canada about 13 years ago, and then more when I got here, nobody here knows me in a larger body, so they don't know of my lived experience. And of course, I've realised, I've been at this healthy, very comfortable weight and very active now for about a decade. So, no one knows how much weight I lost because it was a significant amount. We're talking another human. So people firstly didn't believe me. And then when I explained that I have that pretty privilege is real, slim privilege is real, and I get treated really well now, not just by men, but by everyone in society because of the way I look, it made me very sad because I could see, I look back 15, 20 years ago when I had the baby weight on and I was comfort emotionally eating. I wasn't treated well, and I wanted to call that out and speak to that in society. So that was a really important point. The other one was, studying psychology. I got to the root of my emotional eating disorder and why so many of us comfort eat and why we gain weight when we're not physically hungry. We eat from 1,000 different hungers, and it's usually not food. And so I wanted to share what I learned because it's taken me this lifetime to get to this point in my 40s now, to have a handle on it. 99% of the time, I'm human. But I wanted to share that because I feel there's real value in helping other people who, may not have any awareness of why they're standing in the fridge at, 3 in the morning or after dinner or in the pantry, mindlessly eating. And of course it's stress, it's anxiety, it's depression, it's, I'm on a million things, it's an escape. And so I decided I'm going to help people through being really vulnerable about what I did and what I learned when I healed. Much like Janine Roth, whose work I discovered many years ago and she helped me, I realized there's there are so many people out there who are struggling with this. And, it's, I say in all seriousness, it just doesn't sell diet books. You don't read about the common sense approach of go for a walk, which I do now, eat more vegetables, make sure I get enough protein, eat whole food, and then, feel your feelings. If you're sad, be sad. Don't go on ending up in the fridge. I say, then you have two problems, because you're also still sad, but then you've got a tummy ache and your pants don't fit. That was me 15 years ago when I was dealing with things in my life. And so, I guess that was the other main point in terms of writing the story. And of course, there was so much that happened. I left my husband. There was a big journey there. There was just a whole lot that was, some of which was hilarious. And I thought, I'm just going to share this with the world and put it out there and hope that if I can help a few people and make them think about a whole lot of really, really quite serious issues, but do it in a way that will make people laugh, then you know what, I've won. So I continue to write. It's a lot of fun.
Well, they do say funny is money.
I love that.
Although I'm still waiting for the money because I've been funny.
I'm going to quote that in my next Substack, let me tell you.
Well, I had an agent tell that to me once, and then they wouldn't represent me. So I guess maybe I wasn't funny enough. But the motivation to write this book, though, it sounds like it's coming from a place of wanting to help other people versus necessarily, which can sometimes be true with memoir, and I'm not saying it's not true with yours, but you didn't mention it yet, is trying to work something out within yourself. Some people approach memoir as a way of healing. I'm healing from past trauma, but your lead off to me anyway was, hey, I want to do this to help other people and let other people learn from my journey. Is that a fair statement?
Well, it is, but you're right in that there were so many reasons I wrote this, and healing was a big part of it. It was cathartic for me because up until then, I hadn't really owned my story. I mean, people here didn't know that I was in a much larger body. They, like I said, friends, ex-boyfriends, no one believed me. They were like, Jane, there's no way you used to be overweight or obese. You just didn't. And I said, well, yes, I did. And I was sad and I was comfort eating and my pants were way bigger. And so, I can smile about it. But yeah, there was a lot of shame. And I didn't share that with, the photos were sort of pre-internet, pre-selfie Instagram. So nobody saw the photos. They weren't online. And I needed to make peace with the past, with that girl that I was a long time ago. And so it was incredibly healing to own that and to now share with people. And in my work as a therapist, I'm helping people to heal and become more vulnerable and own their past and shame. And I realized that's what I needed to do. I needed to own this. And also then, as a friend pointed out, be proud of the work because I lost the weight the old-fashioned way. There was no crazy dramatic, removing of my stomach or anything. I just started walking and exercising and, just honestly just fell in love with making, yummy salads. So, it was incredibly healing. And, there's the childhood issues with my late father and other really tough things to write that were important to explain my journey and the trajectory and why I became a comfort eater as a child. The whole unhappy parents thing. It's not uncommon, but it's often why we end up comfort eating as teenagers, when food is love. It's just it's a poor man's substitute.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there is something to, losing the weight, doing all the right things, eating the right foods, exercising. But if you're not treating that root cause, of where that trauma came from, why you started doing it in the first place, it's almost like quitting drinking, but without dealing with why you started drinking so much in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's why relapsing is so big. And I imagine that could have been true for you as well.
Oh, 100%. And that's what I saw with clients when I was working with them. And I knew within myself, if I hadn't healed emotionally and gotten to the real issue there, like what was I hungry for? What was I comfort eating for? And making peace with everything. That's where work like, Tara Brach's Radical Acceptance was helpful, Brene Brown. I read so many, Elizabeth Lesser, all of them. Yeah, it was an incredibly healing journey that I'm still on. It's lifelong. Yeah, absolutely. But you're right. I think for anybody, So when it's a diet and it's a temporary quick fix, of course you revert back to your old behaviours. So it's all about and understanding the neuroscience behind creating new neural pathways and forming new habits and it taking time, all of that, the psychology around that, which I'm putting more into the second book because there's so much there that I think people need to understand on a really basic level about how we make these changes for life that are healthy, they're sustainable, those small consistent actions like that James Clear talks about, learning that. And when you do it over time, you can keep the weight off. And I have for over a decade now. And it's just consistency. And then it's, addressing, being sure when those emotions come up, we deal with them the right way in the body. We don't go and take a drink or, go and order some fries or, just eat a whole tub of ice cream because we're sad, because we have to, if we don't process it, we're still sad and then we're sad with a tummy ache. It's just not a win.
Do you find differences with between men and women as it pertains to emotional eating or, why men might be gaining weight or emotional eating versus women? Is there a difference between the sexes?
Well, I actually found in my own clinical work that there were more commonalities. Like I was shocked. People would come in and present with anxiety or depression. And, often it wasn't for a few sessions until someone would reveal that they have a very conflicted relationship with their food, body image, disordered eating. And it was just so prevalent. And that's when I realized this is universal. Another reason I need to write this story. And it was surprising just how paralleled often the stories were between men and women. And now that I share my past with all of my friends, I'm hearing the same thing from both genders, or from all genders. Everybody seems to struggle. It really is. It's quite universal. I really do think rare is the person that doesn't have some kind of conflicted relationship, because we often resort to food. Understandably, it's delicious and it's nurturing and comforting in the moment. But when some of us do it over and over again, to an unhealthy degree, then we wake up one day and find we're 50 pounds overweight and unhappy and, can't climb a mountain or ride a bike very comfortably.
Yeah, for me, I've been a lifelong runner, not lifelong, but, since high school, cross country and all that. And then I always had this mentality, though, that I could just eat whatever I wanted to so long as I exercised, because the pounds would always come off. If I needed to lose 5 pounds, I could run it away.
Yeah, yeah.
When I hit 40, that ceased to be true.
Yes, yeah.
And I had started doing stand-up comedy when I was 44, 45, and I would record myself. And I would, just to see, okay, am I getting laughs? Is this joke working? They always say, record yourself so you can work on it. Mm-hmm. And I started watching these tapes. They weren't tapes, but, and I'm like, who is that guy up there trying to make people laugh? Because I didn't recognize myself. Like I was 220 pounds. Mm-hmm. And, on a 5'10" frame. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, that I just didn't look good. And that was like the light bulb went off. I'm like, I need to start, because I never stopped exercising. Yes. But I needed to really change my relationship with food. So I started I wouldn't eat all the carbs that I love to eat. I had to say goodbye to certain things. Mm-hmm. And the weight started to fall off. Like by August of that year, I had lost 40 pounds. Wow, good for you. And I was getting compliments left and right. I would run into people. So I didn't move to Vancouver, and everyone who knew me as heavier, saw me. Yeah. And that was almost as addictive as, in terms of feeling good, was getting compliments. Yeah. And, which felt great. And then, the pandemic hits. I want to putting a little bit more back on, but I still feel good about where I am. But it is not, in other words, it's not an easy thing to do, especially if what used to work in the past, stops working, you really have to change your approach to it. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I really do believe, my Substack's called All Things Moderation, and called that because I really do advocate moderation in all things. It's common sense and balance. I love sourdough bread. I love, with organic butter, that tastes good. And I love a glass of red. But yeah, I don't have it all the time every day because the weight would go back on very quickly. So it's just balancing
that energy output with working out, which is now definitely a bit of an addiction, but I figure that's the best one I can have at this point in my life. So
That's right.
I'll
That's
own
right.
the exercise addiction, and it makes me a much happier and better mother and friend and human.
But I know your story, it isn't just about weight loss. I mean, you had a lot of big changes in your life that you do talk about. I mean, you talk about, divorce, you talk about getting back into the dating scene.
Yeah.
What was it like sort of making, and I don't know if all those changes happened around the same time, but it seems like a really big shift in life. And I'm curious how your friends reacted to it, how your family reacted to it.
Yeah. No, it was a really, really tough period. And it was certainly, I'd lost a lot of the weight at the point when we started having, quite serious marital troubles. And, we tried counseling and the rest. But I was, it was really, really tough. No question. I mean, obviously with 3 little kids and all of our family in Australia, we didn't have family support here in Canada either. We'd moved here with my ex-husband for his career. So it was, there was really no safety net over here, and it wasn't easy. But, at the same time, it was, in terms of my growth and what I learned, recognizing as a woman, that I was capable, and I went back to school, and I could build this life, and I I think we grew up, and a lot of us are taught, I was way back when, I think we all were, and it was just implicit. You have a husband, you get married, you don't really question it. And just starting to question all of the gender roles and the patriarchy and just the world that I'd sort of immersed myself in as a stay-at-home mother and never really questioned. And then recognizing, of course, that I was dissatisfied. I wanted a career, I needed to go, and I wanted to travel. And I was just, my ex-husband and I had really grown apart at that point. And I don't want to elaborate because, I want to respect his privacy, but
sure.
Yeah, it was incredibly tough. And then the whole, deciding to date and, jump on, try Tinder was just a shit show. It's just horrific.
Well, for those of us who have been married for, I don't know, I think 26 years now, what is Tinder like? I mean, if some of us should find our way back into the dating pool, and Nicole, if you're listening, I'm not asking to, but I'm just wondering, like, what is it really like? Like, what are some of your Tinder stories?
Oh, I honestly was just really deeply saddened by the whole experience. I mean, there were moments you'd laugh and it was exciting, you'd meet someone and there'd be the fun, you get the dopamine hits when you have the flirty text. But honestly, it was just perpetual disappointment. And I found the experience incredibly dehumanizing. I don't know what it is about, and I write about this in the chapter. There's the illusion of more, so it seems to me that people forget all sort of basic manners and common sense and decency because, if you, for whatever reason, you don't like someone or you don't want to meet them, you just block and delete them, or if you didn't enjoy meeting them, there's, so much as not even I would find men wouldn't even message with sometimes, well, nice to meet you, but I don't think this will work out. It was just delete, block. And I mean, of course, there was far worse experiences. I mean, I had one man actually pick me up on a first date, on a coffee date, which I write about in the book. And I was just completely baffled. And he said, I wanted to check I could pick you up. And I was standing there. It was just, I seriously felt like I was being weighed. It was just baffling. And that was sort of one of the less offensive experiences. I recognize that some people do meet the loves of their lives and go on to have children, and I think that's really beautiful. I mean, I'm an optimist. I'm one of the most optimistic people I know, but I found it just, it was pretty woeful, and doesn't bring out the best in people because I think that illusion of more. Oh well, I'll just meet someone new. I'll meet someone new. There's always someone new online, but what are the odds of really truly finding your soulmate? I mean, some people do, but I think it's pretty rare. And I would absolutely rather die alone with 10 cats and because I've got one, like he's awesome, but I would take another 9 over another Tinder experience, like no question.
Yeah, I wonder if just some people just feel like they're like they've been in a cage for so long and now they're out and they've got this thing that's got a certain reputation to it, and they feel like it's almost like Thunderdome from Mad Max. Like it's not selling me. I mean, you're not selling me on it, Jane.
No,
so.
no,
My wife probably appreciates that.
Honestly, Michael, like there was a couple of seconds of fun in the beginning, and then there was just a whole lot of like, oh my gosh, like I cannot believe I did my hair for this experience, I just find people would lie, misrepresent themselves. I mean, I had one man, I shouldn't call a man, person who, because it wasn't a man, because when I was asleep, and this is in the book too, he stole my child's credit card out of my purse and went on a bender. So I had a criminal.
My gosh.
Yeah, and that was, in hindsight, like really, really scary to think I trusted somebody who was a thief. It was, and again, I didn't even know if that was, no, I guess that was the worst experience, but there was lots of them, like it's just, for me, it's just like a hard no. There's just a lot of left swipes. It's just no,
Yeah.
The cat is just way less work.
So I want to go back to, speaking of work, go back to the book. You mentioned, the first draft, 3 months, which to me is, man, that's a burst of creativity right there, because 3 months, especially for a first book, some people are still outlining after 3 months. So I'm curious, like, what was the writing process like? I mean, did it really come to you that fast? Was it that inspired, or was there, eventually some back and forth later on?
Yeah, I mean, certainly after, when I got to editing, once I'd found a publisher and I'd submitted, there was obviously some tweaking there when I thought, I need to add this story, or no, I'll omit this story. But it really was a bit, it became a bit of a passion project, and I wasn't sleeping as much. I mean, I probably had way too much espresso, which I probably still do, but I really just knew what I wanted to write, and it was there. Like, I realized when it started, it really did flow. And that was also when I realized, okay, this is what I meant to do, because I'd found my voice, and I thought I have lots of important things that I feel have value in the world, and I wouldn't have written it if I felt that I couldn't help people. And of course, at the same time, I hope to, make them laugh, but reach them. And yeah, it was a very intense process. I blocked off time. I had clients. A caseload. I was working part-time as a therapist. I just blocked off big chunks. I just, the kids, my kids are pretty much grown now, but I said to them, like, Mummy's writing. Like, I'd go to a coffee shop and I just wouldn't move. I'd just sit with my laptop, and it just sort of, I was traveling a little, so I'd write on planes and in airports. I call the portal in the book, and I'd just keep writing, and it just I was a bit like a woman possessed. I mean, but people who know me know that when I get excited about something, I go all in. I don't mess around.
Yeah, well, it feels like it was the moment was right for this to happen, for the story to flow through you, because it sounds like the story is flowing through you. It's not necessarily, from your maybe your conscious mind. I mean, it's almost like, and a lot of writers tell me, and I've experienced this as well. It's like you're channeling the words, you're channeling the story.
Absolutely. 100%. And the experience tapping into that was incredibly powerful. I mean, I'm quite addicted to writing now. I have to write every day. Otherwise, I feel better too. It's just happy I write, sad I write. It's terrific.
Did you learn anything more about yourself as you went through this writing process? Obviously, it's a very personal story, obviously balanced with humor. But did you walk away with any ahas from this experience?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, thank you. That's a great question, because I realized when I got toward the end of the book, I did realize that. I realized that, and at the time I was dating a lovely man, and I met him on Bumble, to be fair. So, that was quite a little less horrific, and really lovely guy. We're still friends. But I realized that I needed some time alone. I wanted to travel. I didn't want to jump. I certainly know I don't want to remarry, but I realized for my own growth, I thought, I think I just needed to have some more freedom and enjoy that time in my life. I certainly don't want or plan to be alone forever, because that's kind of lonely, God bless men, as much as I had terrible experiences, I'm still fond of them. But I just realized, that I just wanted to travel. My youngest is about to, in grade 12, about to go to university. It was time to time for some more self-care and just do the things in my 20s I didn't do because I was busy raising children and I married young. And so, yeah, that was tough. But in terms of, just recognizing, no, I don't want a big commitment right now with anyone. And perhaps in 10 years I will, or in 15, who knows. Just at this point in my life, I needed to take some more time for myself and continue to write and, just make peace with everything and continue to heal, because it's a lifelong journey. I mean, I can still slide back into that emotional eater occasionally. It's just fortunately not very often. And, I address the issue, whatever it is that I'm sad about or angry about or upset about, and do the work and meditate and do some yoga and go for a hike, and, then I'm happy Jane again, Yeah. It's just...
Yeah, I mean, I think the beautiful thing about writing is it can be part of a healing process. And, particularly with memoir, you're reliving your story, which might be daunting. And, for some people it might be hard to go back in time and put yourself in those shoes and then feel those things that you were feeling. But, part of it is, by being able to process it, you can make peace with it.
Yeah.
And making peace with it, you can acknowledge that, yes, this was true for me at one point in time, but it's not true anymore. And you can deal with that part of self, which will always be part of you. That part of self will always be part of you.
Exactly.
But what you're describing to me, it's almost like a rebirth of sorts, kind of rediscovery of yourself in, your 30s, your 40s. And it's like a new lease on life is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why the subtitle, How I Lost the Weight and Found Myself, was very true, because in this process I did discover this girl who was, in the past I had been anxious and lacking confidence, and that was tied into the weight and some childhood issues, of course. But yeah, I really got to that, I guess it was in my late 30s when I stepped into my own power, as a woman, and recognized my own capabilities. And then there was, of course, all of those questions and thoughts around the patriarchy and those bigger, broader issues in society. But it was, I absolutely feel very much. I suppose it's just been this evolution from the anxious girl to now a confident woman who is just, ready to take on life. But, with love and compassion and kindness and everything I've learned, that really is, we need to give everyone else on earth. I just try and do that every day and just spread some joy and happiness, because Lord goodness knows we need more of that in the world,
Do you look at that younger, that younger Jane, that anxious Jane? Do you look upon her? Have you learned to be able to look upon her with love and compassion and understanding?
At this point, yes. And I mean, and sadness for the fact that I wasn't coping, but I realize I had to live all of that to get to this point. I wouldn't change it, because I learned so much through that experience. Had I grown up with privilege or never had the weight struggles or the anxiety, I wouldn't be as strong as I am now. I really, really believe that I was meant to live it to get to this point, and then to be able to help people and reach them. That's my hope and my next goal. Because, I mean, not everyone agrees with me, but I do think steel is forged in the fire. At least it was for me. So, I wouldn't change it. And I can definitely think when I got to the end of the story and I'd written it, that was when I could truly just look back with compassion and recognize, I was doing the best I could. We all are. And now I have the tools, I have the skills, and I have done so much work on myself and the reading and, discovering these amazing authors that help, Eckhart Tolle. I mean, so many, of course. And, it's just, I feel like I'm where I'm meant to be at this point in my life, which is frankly, it's a really, really good feeling. And it's a good timing with my youngest about to go to university. The timings, it's quite nice, because I do want to continue to travel and write, do a lot of hiking, and obviously share more in future books.
Well, speaking of traveling and hiking, I know one of the things that's mentioned in the book is the Camino de Santiago.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that's on my bucket list, because that's something that I would love to do. I saw a movie. It was written and directed by Emilio Estevez. It's called The Way.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful film. It really is a beautiful film.
Absolutely.
I'm curious. Can you sell me on this? Give me some reasons why I need to do this this pilgrimage.
I assure you, I mean, if I was able to tomorrow, I didn't have other commitments with children and whatnot, I would pack my backpack and go back and do more of it, because I did it with my younger two children. Well, we did the Sarrieta Santiago section. It was about 120 kilometres, the last section, because, school timetables, we couldn't just go for 3 months. I can't recommend it highly enough. I mean, it was honestly life-changing, and I don't say that lightly. I mean, really life-changing. The bonding with my kids, the conversation, they weren't on their phones on TikTok. We actually spoke, and they asked to go back. Next spring break, we plan to do some of the Frenchigena through Italy. I did a section of that last year, which I've put in the second book I'm working on, and I did that solo, which was incredibly healing and cathartic, but there's just nothing like it. I really believe we're meant to be outside moving. And it was just, I just can't wait to get back and do more of it. And I think it speaks to the experience that my kids had. They grew up in this tech world, and the fact that they're asking to go back and do more of it, despite the blisters, the rain, the hunger, the tummy upsets. They're adamant that we're going to do more of it. Next spring break in March. I said, well, absolutely. Like it's one of my favorite things. And so I absolutely would recommend it, whether it's solo or with loved ones. It's, it's you've got to get out there, and you realize at a certain point, like, wow, like talk about transformations. I mean, that was definitely another one for us as a family. I mean, my eldest didn't want to go. They're neurodivergent, and they said, hell no, like I'm not getting up. And this is insane. So, that was a hard no from them. That's okay. 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3. Well, Meatloaf said 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah, story of my life.
You mentioned a couple times, Jane, a second book. What's book number 2?
Mm-hmm. So I definitely want to include more of the how and why, because people have been asking me, well, how do you keep weight off for a decade, when you've lost a lot? Because I think the stats my doctor said was about 2% keep it off, like that kind of weight in the long term, 98% regain. And I thought, okay, well, what have I learned and what can I share with other people? And then, of course, the hike through Italy that I did. And then, I mean, there was obviously some funny, crazy things that happened along the way. And I thought, well, I want to share that. There'll be more hiking. So, it's I could say it's about walking, but quite frankly, it's about so much more than taking a walk. But you know what I mean? It really does. Looking back on it, there was just, you can take a walk across the countryside in Spain, and it really is, or in Italy, and it really is life-changing. Well, that's what I found. It was, so I want to share that with people. And frankly, there was just some funny stuff that really needs to be in print. It was crazy.
Very good, Jane. I always like to end with sort of a big question, which is if you can go back in time, and I'm thinking about that sort of that anxious Jane who was turning to emotional eating and as a way of coping. If you can go back in time and whisper some words of advice into her ear, what would you tell a younger Jane McGuinness?
Oh. That question will make me sad. It's a beautiful question. Thank you. Because I would, I'd tell her that she's loved and it's all going to be okay. It's going to work out. And as my best friend Kelly says, she says, if it's not okay, it's all going to be okay in the end. She says, Jane, and if it's not okay, then it's not the end.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Jane, where can people learn more about you? Are you active on social media? Do you have a website? What can you share with the audience?
Absolutely. So JaneMcGuinnessTheAuthor.com. They can find my Substack, All Things Moderation, and the Jane McGuinness The Author on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. They can find me there, and links to Amazon. There's the audiobook on Audible. I actually narrated it myself, so they will get to hear my voice if they are into audiobooks. And then the e-reader, of course, and the paperback. And then
very good.
Through Barnes & Noble and everywhere else, of course.
Everywhere else, even your local bookstore, I'm sure.
Yes, exactly, which we have to support or we will not have them. Yeah.
That 100% true. They're so good to us. Jane, I'm going to put links to all of that in our show notes so people can find you easily. And I will say thank you so much for uncorking, for stopping by Uncorking a Story and letting me uncork yours.
Oh, thank you very much, Michael. It was an absolute pleasure. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Uncorking a Story. If you'd like more information about today's guest or to find out more about Mike, go to uncorkingastory.com. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review us at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Tune in every week to hear Mike Carlin uncork a new story.